What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Burgundy and Blue Line channel. It's your boy Eddie back, and it's playoff time. So we're going to fill out this bracket. I'm going to give you my expert perfect analysis. I've never been wrong on these once before. And we're going to go through these. It's good. It's a fun. We got some fun matchups this year. And you know what? We might as well just jump right into it with the Avs and the Kings. Literally just announced. So I struggle with this matchup, not because I'm like, oh, well, this is really close. Not like saying the Kings can't do it here. I think the Kings might be harder because of their experience. You know, they have the motivation with Kopitar, and they have a guy in Panarin, and they have a guy in Kemper where they could get hot. They could make this a really close series. You know, they play that kind of slower style that the Avs might struggle against. You know, they're a faster team. It'll slow the game down. But if the Avs can break through it, they should be fine. They really should be fine no matter what. They have no excuse to lose this series. The Kings have limped into the playoffs. They've just not been very good this year. The Avs have every reason to win. They're one of the better teams. They should be destined for something good. They have the depth. They have all the abilities. They can't have a repeat of last year where the depth kind of fell out and the middle six just didn't score at all. They need their middle six to be producing. They really, realistically, knock on wood, they should be able to get that done against LA. Without it, really, McKinnon and Natchez should be able to carry them through it. Hopefully Natchez could rise to the occasion and give a good playoff performance, you know, kind of buck that narrative a little bit. Brock Nelson can score some goals. He didn't last year. Valachushkin can be a little bit more consistent. Hopefully Ross Colton finds a little bit of heat. He didn't play last year in the playoffs until Game 7 because he was hurt. So there's a lot of things the Avs need to happen, but it's been happening all year, so there's no reason to believe it can't happen, right? They're a very good team, and I know everybody likes to talk about, oh, well, the President's Trophy curse and everything like that, but they're a good team. They have everything a Stanley Cup team needs. Starting at home will also help them out. You know, they rested some guys. It should be nice and fresh, so I'm gonna take the Avs in this one. Do they do the games anymore? They do the games at the end. But I'm going to take the Avs in 5. A gentleman's sweep. Hopefully, for the love of God, they win a fucking series at home for once. I swear to God, this team refuses to win series at home. They should win this series. If they win it 5, 6, or 7, it doesn't matter. I think 5. I think LA could definitely take a game. I think they have that kind of style. They have the experience. They can get it done. But you know, I really just think the Avs are going to be too overwhelming for them. They have too much skill. They have too much depth. They have everything they need. And they have their defense has really found form in the games that mattered. Now we get to a really big one. Right off the rip, Dallas and Minnesota. I feel like this could have been closer, but I really don't know about Minnesota because I feel like their goaltending has fallen off a little bit, and that was the one saving grace for them in a series like this. I think Dallas struggled a little bit with their process this year. They have done a really good job on the power play and finishing chances, but they don't take over games. They don't really overwhelm an opponent. They don't outplay them very much. They just take their chances and they finish them. But Minnesota's a very smart team. They're a very structurally sound team. They also have really good goaltending, and so that's hard to compete with. However, Minnesota has some real depth issues, and their defense is a question. Or not their defense, their goaltending. Their defense is very good. Their defense is definitely better than Dallas's. I really think at the end of the day, it's a bit of a history thing. Dallas has a better history. They have a higher top end. Kirill Kaprizov is probably the best player in the series, but Dallas has a bunch of guys up there. They have Wyatt Johnston. They have Mikko Rantanen. They have Miro Heiskanen. They have Jason Robertson. And the Wild have Hughes and they have Kaprizov, but they've struggled in the postseason, the Wild have. And I really just think that Dallas has shown time and time again that they can get it done in the postseason. I think that experience is going to take them through. However, if Ottinger keeps being shaky, this could be a series, you know? Oh, and by the way, Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas, I think that one goes 7. That one's going 7. Overtime's every game. That would be great. Everybody wants that. This is the best series out there, I think. Now we get to some real interesting ones. Vegas and Utah. There was a time there earlier in 2026 where Utah looked pretty good. Like Utah looked like a team that could come out. of this bracket. I don't know if that's as much the case anymore. I think they might have the goaltending edge if Vejmelka continues to play pretty well. They have the tools to compete with Vegas, but they're an inexperienced team. And, Vegas has played pretty well, especially since Tortorella got hired. Their big question is goaltending. Whoever they play in that, if it's that asshole Carter Hart who shouldn't be in the league, or whoever, they're not very strong. They've struggled with goaltending this year. It could be Adin Hill. Adin Hill has shown that he can do it at least. Carter Hart hasn't done that before. I think I would have picked Utah, but they slumped pretty hard, and I'm not really buying it. However, I think Vegas is going to take it. I think it's going to be 6. I could see it going 7, but I really think Vegas might not need that extra game to get it done with their extra experience. This is this is their first foray into the postseason. It's fine. They're a wild card team. They're not expected to win. I think it could be close. I could very well see Utah winning this if the pedigree doesn't quite shine through for Vegas. They've struggled quite a bit. So if that continues, I could see it. But Vegas is still a very good system team. Tortorella does not have a great track record of postseason success lately. So that's a real question there. Is can he get the best out of them in the postseason? I think firing Bruce Cassidy might not have been the move, but I guess we'll see. I still think they'll win at least a round. And then we got Edmonton versus Anaheim. Anaheim's a really fun team, and it kind of comes down to goaltending. Shocker, shocker. Every series does. But they have Lukas Dostal, and the Oilers have Tristan Jarry and Connor Ingram. And Connor Ingram can catch fire. Tristan Jarry can catch fire, but neither of them have done that this year. We've seen really good stretches from Lukas Dostal. He's been on a downturn since the Olympics, but the Ducks have a great mixture of youth and experience. They have Cutter Gauthier, they have Leo Carlson, they have Jackson Lacombe. They also have Chris Kreider and John Carlson and Troy Terry, who hasn't been to the postseason, but he knows his way around. They have Jacob Trouba. He's played in the postseason quite a bit. They have guys that can get them through. Really, this is one of my favorite upset picks, I think, just because they have all those abilities to get it done, but they don't have the experience that Edmonton does. However, if Edmonton is still missing Draisaitl, their goaltending can easily fall out, and Anaheim's a really good, really quality offensive team. The other thing with Edmonton, along with the Draisaitl thing, is they've been to 2 cup runs in a row. We saw with Florida this year, this took a toll. Is it going to take a toll on them? Is this kind of like, this is just kind of a reset year for them? I don't know. I don't think Edmonton is quite as good of a team as they were the last 2 years. At least Stuart Skinner would elevate in the postseason. I'm not sure the same could be said for Jarry or Ingram. I want to take Anaheim here. I'm kind of talking myself into it, and so I'm going to. Why not? And Joe Quenneville can coach this team, I think, in a good way. I think it'll go 7. Or maybe not. Honestly, it's one of those ones where I feel like if it goes 7, I think Edmonton wins it. But I think if it's shorter, if the goaltending really struggles for Edmonton, I think Anaheim. If the goaltending difference is really big, I think Anaheim can really run away with it. But I'm going to go 6 for that one. I said 5 for the Avs, 7 for Dallas. And then for Vegas, I think 6 as well. I think they'll all go pretty far. A lot of these series are pretty evenly matched. Like I said, I think the Kings are a tough matchup for the Avs with the style, but I think the quality of the team is much higher for the Avs. It's just whether or not they play to that quality that makes a difference there. And then we're going to hop over to the East, the Buffalo Sabres. They finally did it. They finally made the playoffs. Last time they made the playoffs, I was 7. So that's crazy. I think one of the last times they played them was also against Boston. Boston is a very interesting team. They're a tough team. Jeremy Swayman's a pretty good goalie. They still got David Pastrnak, but they're a really odd team. I don't love their defense. Their defense is a big boomer bust defense. And the same with their depth, to be quite honest, that they have that one line of Zacha, Middlestat, and Arvidsson. That's a pretty good depth line for them. And then they got Geeky and Pastrnak up there. I think it's another case where this is pretty much like a lesser version of Ducks versus Oilers, where Boston has the experience. It's just, I think Buffalo is the better team. But Buffalo versus Boston is really interesting because Buffalo is a really good team, and they've been a better team than I think they've shown the last few years. They have some dudes with some playoff experience. They have Alex Tuch. Bowen Byram went on to win a Stanley Cup. He's played in some playoffs, but they're a pretty relatively inexperienced team. So there's some real questions there. Boston also has I would say a goaltending advantage. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is pretty good, though. The Sabres have played well, but the goal for them, I feel like, kind of was just getting into the postseason. I don't know. It's just, will that experience get Boston through? I think it could. Also, Morgan Geekie is not going to score at the same clip he has this year. I don't believe it. He's been very good, and Pasternak's been great. And maybe that's the trade-off. It'll be Pasternak is scoring more goals and Geekie scoring less, so it kind of evens out. So yeah, I think it'll go the distance. It'll be a really good series. I'm going to go with Buffalo. Tage Thompson's been really good this year. Rasmus Dahlin's been really good. Those are also some guys that are fit for a playoff style. Tage Thompson's a little soft, but he's a big guy, so we'll see if he can get that going. Alex Tuch is pretty good playoff performer. Like Bowen Byram really raised his game in the postseason for the Avs, so we'll see how that goes. This is another interesting series between Tampa and Montreal. This is really honestly, like quite honestly, as close as a carbon copy you can get to the Oilers Ducks series, except goaltending. Tampa Bay is an older team; they're more experienced. They've got a better top end. They have Jake Gensel and Nikita Kucherov carrying the load there. Each of those guys have won 2 cups. So that's a pretty hefty resume right there. And then obviously they still got a lot of guys from their cup years. The Hedman. They brought back Yanni Gord. They still have Vasilevsky. I think that's really where it makes a difference. I don't think Montreal can really compete with that. I think this is honestly, like, Montreal is great, but I'm not really sure if Cole Caulfield is made for the playoffs. Nick Suzuki should perform pretty well. I think he will be kind of there carrying the load for him. I'm not sure how Lane Hutson's going to be able to do. Tampa Bay really likes to muck it up, and they slow the game down, and they just kind of they're very similar to Dallas, but they control the game quite a bit better. You know, they limit the other team a lot more than Dallas does, I think. They have the pedigree, and they have the top end that's been there. You know, Nikita Kucherov, that's the question. He hasn't been very good in the playoffs the last few years. Does he still have it left in the tank? He's had some big regular seasons, then he's followed it up with some duds. Is that going to be the same? If that is, I don't know, because Tampa's not a very deep team. And that's the other thing with Tampa is Victor Hedman has kind of fallen off. And Darren Radish had a great year, but is he going to keep that going? I strongly don't believe so. I would be shocked and amazed if he did. So I don't know. I still think Tampa has it. I really think the goaltending is the difference. You know, Jacob Dobish is pretty solid, but I think Montreal will put up a good fight, but I just don't think it's there here quite yet. Now, Carolina-Ottawa is also really interesting because Ottawa is a sneaky, really good underlying team. Both of these teams have goalie questions. Brandon Bussi has been very good. However, the Carolina Hurricanes play the worst type of defense possible where they limit really low danger chances, but they let up the best of the best. They suppress so much, but when they let stuff up, it's awful. It's awful for a goaltender. And he has performed pretty well in it, to be fair. That's part of the reason they're the number 1 seed in the conference. And that's part of the reason Ottawa is the bottom seed in the conference. Their goaltending has been terrible. Linus Ullmark has not been very good for them, and he's dealt with some stuff, but he also has no playoff track record. His 1 year was the year that the Bruins won the President's Trophy, and then they blew it, in decent part to him not being able to keep up his performance, and he hasn't done very well this year. He's made to be a tandem guy, and he's struggled to just be a true blue starter. I really think Ottawa could make it interesting. They have a very good system. They've had very good process this year. They have a really good defense. Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot. Really good stuff going on up there. And then they got Tim Stützle, Jake Batherson. They have guys. They have guys that can get it done. But again, I think Carolina, I think they got the experience, and Brandon Bussi's been pretty decent for them in goals. So Ottawa is a sneaky pick. It's probably one of the other bigger upsets, but I do think Carolina still has that kind of edge, you know? We can see Carolina is always just such a boom or bust playoff team. If they don't get the goaltending and they don't get the finishing because they don't have the guys to do it, they're going to struggle. Ottawa has the guys who can do it. They have better players. Like better top end players, but do they have the depth to compete? Do they have the experience? Do they have the style? I don't think so. I think Carolina takes that one. And then we got Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia. Now, will Stuart Skinner's playoff magic carry over from Edmonton to Pittsburgh? Or are they going to start Shilovs? I don't know. I'd be shocked. I would start Skinner just because he's been to 2 Stanley Cup finals in a row. Like, I also know he got hurt. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play, to be completely honest. I think Pittsburgh could do it. They've been a pretty solid team this year, but Philadelphia's been really, really good defensively. Their big question, I think, is again in net. Dan Vladar, brother was a backup for his entire year, and he's been for his entire career, and has been pretty solid this year, and that's great for him. Both of these teams had some real issues. Pittsburgh is so old, but Philadelphia's got that youth. They've still got some of the experience. They've still got Sean Couturier. They've got dudes that'll make it work. And I think this could be a pretty decent upset potential. I just think the youth of the Flyers will kind of carry them through it. They have a really good defensive structure with Rick Tocchet. And I think Pittsburgh is kind of, they've played well, but really I think it was just getting into the postseason for them. And I think the Flyers, can take advantage of that. Battle of Pennsylvania should be a really good one. I think it'll go 7. I really feel like it could be Pittsburgh, but they've just struggled so much in the playoffs the last few years. I don't really have the faith. So I'm going to go Buffalo in 7, Tampa Bay in 6, Carolina in, we'll say 6 again, and then Pittsburgh, Philadelphia in 7 as well. We have some really good first round matchups this year. Really, all of the matchups are really good. Unfortunately, the problem is maybe not as many of them should be that good. The whole conversation about the playoff structure, I really don't know. It's ridiculous that the Avs are playing the Stars in the second round. Both Vegas and Anaheim are playing far weaker teams. I don't know why you get an advantage for one playoff round, and that is literally it. That makes no sense. The Avs, if it were to play out like this, the Avs should be playing Anaheim in round 2. That seems like the only logical way to do it. But whatever. Back to the well with Avs versus Stars. I've picked this wrong every fucking year, and I'm not picking it wrong again. Or at least I'm picking the same way I always have. I just hope I'm not. They make it not wrong this time. Because I think the Avs have the leg up on Dallas that they didn't have the last 2 years. Last year, they didn't play well. They didn't finish well. Jake Ottinger was great. And that could very well be the case again. His best games of the season have been against the Avs this year. But I will say, he's also had some pretty shaky ones around that. I wonder if it's just he's circling it, and it's like, okay, if you're circling a game and you're getting up for it, that's fine, but can you do it for 7 games, in a best of 7? I don't know. I think Dallas is a good team, and I think this is going to be a really tough fight for the Avs to slay their demons again. Would be the 3rd time losing to Dallas in a row. That would be ridiculous. That would be embarrassing. They know what went wrong for them last year. They played really well. They were the better team at 5v5 in their process. But that doesn't matter when you can't score more goals than the other team. They need their middle 6 to step up because that was one of their bigger issues last year. And hopefully this power play that has kind of gotten rolling a little bit since the Olympic break can keep it going. And the penalty kill has played pretty well too. That was another issue. The Avs struggled to kill the Stars penalties. So if they can kill penalties, if they can win the special teams battle, I feel so supremely confident that they will win this. If they could break even on the special teams battle, I feel so supremely confident they will win this because the Dallas Stars have not been a very good 5v5 team this year, and the Avs have been the best in the league. They're a really good team, but they just need to get the results. They can't rely on their process. They need guys like Brock Nelson, Val Nichushkin, Gabe Landeskog, Marty Necas, Ross Colton to score goals. If Parker Kelly can keep up that 20-goal form, that would be fantastic. They need Nazem Kadri and Nick Waugh to come in and make an impact. They can't be like last year where their deadline guys pretty much didn't do shit. They need them to come in and perform this year. They don't have any more excuses, barring some crazy injuries or anything. In 2024, they were injured and they had Georgiev as their goalie. In 2025, half their team was new and they didn't have enough time to get gelled. They don't have those excuses this year. This is their time to do it. And Dallas is a tough team. There's a reason the Avs struggle with them. They're a quality team. They have good goalies. They have a good defense. They have a really high top end. But they don't have Nathan McKinnon. They don't have Cale Makar. They need Cale Makar to score goals this year. That's for damn sure. Maybe Sam Malinsky can pitch in a few. He's taken a step forward this year. The Avs have evolved as a team, but that evolution needs to take the step into the postseason. Brock Nelson's played way better than he did last year. Val Nichushkin has become a much better two-way player again. Nicholas Waugh has looked fantastic in Colorado, and he has some pretty good playoff runs under his belt. Can these guys be the difference? Like one of the big, and where another thing it really comes down to is the goaltending, because the Avs are in between Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood right now, and the theory is that they might do like a typical tandem rotation, and no teams do that in the postseason, and that's a bit dangerous However, it could also work really well because both of these goalies have played really well in Colorado. That's the thing. Scott Wedgwood will only play well if he's playing every other game. I think Mackenzie Blackwood is more equipped to play a whole series, right? So we'll see. If all they need is, I think they need one of those two dudes to play the way that they've played for the Avs. For Dallas, it's a conversation. They have the mental advantage, they're the ones who beat the Avs the last 2 years. And then all the way back in 2020, they have that leg up, but they're also missing some dudes. They got some injuries, and their process has not been nearly as good this year as it was last year. The Avs are a much better team than they were either of those 2 years before. And so if they want the chance to win the series, to finally beat the Dallas Stars for once in this era, this is their chance. There's no excuses. Everybody needs to perform. The top middle six is going to be the big key for the Avs, and obviously special teams, right? They have the motivation, and really, it's one of those things. Dallas, I think, is the second best team in the league. If they beat Dallas, I feel great about their chances to make a run and actually win the cup. But they gotta beat the Kings first, and then they gotta beat Dallas or whoever, Minnesota. So we'll see. But I'm picking the Avs. I think they're a better team. I think they're well equipped for this. Starting at home will also be a big key. They stole a game in Dallas last year. That's great. But I mean, if you're starting at home, can you get two? I don't know. We'll see. They were a pretty good home team this year. That's another question, is they've kind of struggled at home down the stretch. They've lost a lot of 1-goal games at home. That's the other thing that's got to change. They lost a lot of 1-goal games to Dallas last year. They lost 2 games in overtime. Flip one of those, they win the series. They just gotta they gotta clutch up when it matters. They gotta get that clutch factor back. And then we got Vegas versus Anaheim. Really, really interesting. I just don't know how to feel about Anaheim. I'm really bullish on Anaheim. I really like the team they have this year, and I think they got a lot of reasons to win some games and make this a thing. They got some dudes who can get it done. And Vegas has been really shaky this year. I think Vegas is less regulation wins than Anaheim or something. Vegas went into a reverse to get first in the division. And to be completely honest, Anaheim went into a reverse to make the playoffs in general. So this entire bracket is crap. I think it'd be really fun if Anaheim won. I think they have the guys. It's a question of goaltending. And I want to take Anaheim because I really, really like Lukas Dostal. And I think, they've got the experience, but they have some defensive struggles. Let's be real here. They are not a very good defensive team. Vegas has experience. They haven't done much since their run in 23. It's been 3 years. They should be refreshed and reloaded. They made some weird moves at the deadline, so they're definitely a weaker team. It's weird to imagine one of these two teams being in the Western Conference Final when it really should be the Avs versus the Stars if they're to perform well and play to expectations. So I guess we will see, but I'm going to go Vegas just based on experience. The goaltending is a question, though. That's a series that I could see going 7, if that's Anaheim or Edmonton, to be completely honest. I think both of those second round series might go 7, although I could see the Avs winning it in 6. Feels like beating Dallas in Game 7 would be a little bit too much of a monster to overcome. But if they did, look out. This team, the Avs have not won a Game 7 with Nathan McKinnon. But if they could win a Game 7 and against Dallas, I'm just saying, look out. They got the guns to do it. If they just do it, 6 feels more comfortable, right? Buffalo versus Tampa. This has been a really good matchup this year. These two teams have really duked it out. Really, I think what this comes down to is experience yet again. I think Tampa is a really good team. I think they've struggled a little bit, but if they can turn it back to how they played in 2022, they haven't been very good since then. They've struggled a lot to even win a round. Have they won a round in 2022? Because they lost to Toronto. They lost to Florida. Anyways, they've struggled, but Buffalo hasn't even made the playoffs for 15 years. I think if Tampa Bay beats Montreal and Nikita Kucherov remembers how to play playoff hockey again, I think they'll definitely make it to at least the conference final. But I don't know. Like I said, Buffalo has a little bit of that boom or bust in them. They have a pretty well-constructed team. They got good goaltending. They got good defense. They got top end. But are they built for the playoffs? I don't think they're built enough to beat Tampa Bay. But that's fine. They're a young team. It's okay. They're young. Now we got Carolina versus Philadelphia. These are two really defensive teams, and this might be, honestly, one of the more boring series in the entirety of the playoffs if it were to happen. They both have not very good goaltending. They both have not very good offense. They got good defense, is the point. Carolina has the experience. I think they have better depth. They have better depth for their skill. Carolina, this all comes down to experience. There's so many young teams here. If it's Carolina versus Pittsburgh, maybe, but I really think Carolina's still a pretty good team. It's just, can they finally figure out how to win in the playoffs? I'm not entirely sold on it. I don't think they're constructed well enough to win the playoffs because they don't have a good player. They don't have a really good player who can do the work for them. But whatever. I think it's Carolina. If it were to be Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, they're a better team. And then we got some really interesting matchups here. Colorado versus Vegas and Tampa Bay versus Carolina. I think Vegas is a good team, but it feels really underwhelming to go from Dallas to Vegas. And I don't want to disrespect Vegas, but they're a 90-point team and the Avs are about to be a 121-point team. There's a 30-point difference between the two teams, pretty much. That is a large gap. There's a barely as much of a difference between the Avs and Vegas as there is between Avs and LA. Now, Vegas has a little bit better system going for them. They have better players, but they struggle with goaltending and they struggle with finishing. And I feel like that's something the Avs can really take advantage of. If the Avs beat Dallas, I would feel strong about them making it to the Cup final. However, obviously Vegas is no slouch. They got to work to beat Vegas. Vegas is a tough team to beat. But, maybe Nicholas Waugh can get a little revenge action in there. Maybe the Avs could be on the inflicting end of some revenge postseason stuff instead of being on the receiving end of it. It's bullshit. But yeah, Vegas is a good team. I just don't think they're built to keep up with the Avs this year. Their goaltending isn't quite good enough. They don't quite have the depth, and their defense is pretty shaky. It's one of those things. It's a tough series. I think if Edmonton makes it this far, I think it's a closer series. I struggle to think Edmonton has some real bottoming out capabilities. So that's why I have them losing in the first round. But if they don't, this would be a good Western Conference final, a good rematch. And it could end up being another rematch between the Avs and Tampa. But with Vegas, I don't see it. I think they could catch fire, go on a little late season tear, but it's not something I'm sold on. So I'll pick the Avs. Not being a homer, they're a good team. And Vegas has some good attributes, but they just haven't put it together once this year. And having to put it together in the postseason is hard. Maybe if they get to play Utah and Anaheim, two inexperienced teams who are a little bit weaker, they could do it. And it's a close series. I don't think the Avs are going to sweep them. I still think it could go 5, 6, 7 games. I feel good about the Avs winning this series. Really, the thing is can they get past Dallas or Minnesota in the second round? If they make it there, they have to beat LA first. They can't look past LA. Dallas and Minnesota are two of the top 5 teams in the league. If they get there and they play one of those two teams, that's their biggest obstacle. They just have to keep that going. The games get harder as they go also. Tired legs, injuries could stack up, but with the Avs versus Dallas or Minnesota, it's hard. It's a really hard series just on paper. On paper right now, if the Avs played Dallas or Minnesota, it would be a much bigger of a coin toss than if the Avs played Vegas. And I'm not trying to disrespect Vegas. This isn't a Vegas disrespect thing. They won the division with 95 points. All right. Like I said, they could very well get their feet under them in the first 2 rounds. This could be a very good series. I've said it. I think they have the ability to make this a really close series and play it really well. I think this could be a really close game, a really close series. I think Vegas has the potential to do some damage and do some stuff. I think the Avs are just a better team, right? That's not necessarily the hottest take for a team that's 30 points ahead of them in the standings. They got better depth, they got better top end, they got better defense, and if they make it this far, their goaltending's got to be worth something, right? And I mean, the same could be said for Vegas. But, there's also the questions that arise where it's like, okay, well, will Vegas making it this far really be deserving, or are they just playing weaker teams? Right? Did they get to play a weaker team than the Dallas Stars? Really, the second round should be Vegas versus Dallas if it were to play out like this. In which case, whatever. I'm rambling. Sometimes I don't want to come across like a homer, and I don't want to set people up for bait or engagement or anything, or thinking that I don't want receipts up in this pitch. All right. I think Vegas is a good team. It's gonna be a close series. Leave me alone. God damn it. And then Tampa Bay versus Carolina. This is also hard because neither of these teams have done much in the playoffs lately. Is this the year Carolina finally gets out of the Eastern Conference Finals? It could. It's just one of those things where it's hard, where it's like, if Tampa makes it this far, I really have a hard time thinking Carolina gets past them. I think Carolina has a chip on their shoulder, but is a chip on your shoulder enough to make up for the difference between Sebastian Aho and Nikita Kucherov? Right? I think Tampa Tampa might get a little bit overwhelmed, though. They tend to play a little bit more of a low event style game, but they feast on those high danger opportunities. And like I said, Carolina bleeds those, man. It's kind of one of those things where it'll be a close series. I think Carolina can end up winning some actual games in the conference final this year. There'll be improvement on that end, but I don't think they have it in their pocket to take down Tampa if Tampa gets this far. Tampa's biggest obstacle is getting past the first round. Really. Similar to how to the Avs is getting past the second round if they make it there. Tampa's is the first round. I mean, right now, getting past the first round is the biggest obstacle for everybody. That's the only obstacle that matters right now. But for Tampa, it's big because they haven't done that lately. And it's been because of some really poor performances by their best players. And that's hard. Like, if, the Avs have Nathan MacKinnon, who always plays well in the playoffs, Jack Eichel always plays well for Vegas in the playoffs. Connor McDavid always plays well. Nikita Kucherov has not played well in the playoffs lately. So that's a real question for them. But if he does, and Vasilevsky looks good, which he also has been shaky in the last few playoffs, then they should be set. I have no reason to think that would drop off. But it could. They're old. Who knows? So I'll pick Tampa, and we got a 2022 rematch coming up here. This is tough. They're really good teams. This is not a unique pick. I know that. But there's a reason for that. Both teams are older than when they played last. The Avs aren't as good of a team, but I don't think Tampa is as good of a team. They don't have Steven Stamkos anymore. Vasilevsky is older. They don't have some of those big depth. They don't have those big depth guys that really, Andre Palat was a big player for them in that Avs series. So it's a whole conversation. But I think really where it comes down to is I do think the Avs really have the edge in the depth department. They have better depth than Tampa does. Tampa's depth just isn't quite the same as it used to be. It's really good defensively, but it doesn't quite have the offense, right? Whereas the Avs have that. If they make it this far, probably their middle six is playing like they have this entire season. Tampa is very good. Tampa is a very good team, but I just think the Avs are better. And, maybe I'm biased. I don't know what would give you that impression. Maybe I'm biased. Who knows? I just think that there's a reason the Avs won the President's Trophy this year. They were dominating in every underlying category for so long. They have some of the best players. If Marty Necas figures out how to play in the playoffs, if Cam Carr remembers how to score goals, if they're told tandem theory works out or one of the goalies takes over, it would probably be Mackenzie Black would be my guess. If that happens, look out. Because there's a reason this team won the President's Trophy. Fuck the President's Trophy curse. President's Trophy curse doesn't exist. Please, God, don't lose. Don't make me look like an idiot for saying that. But the President's Trophy curse doesn't exist. I think one of the big things with the President's Trophy curse is that there's good teams that play in over their heads or just maybe aren't that good. Or there's other really good teams. Or like maybe they win the President's Trophy by like a couple points. And then they play another team who was right there with them, right? The Avs are a really good team. And if they can get over these recent struggles they've had with the lack of depth scoring and the lack of the special teams that have haunted them, and to be completely honest, some goaltending that's haunted them the past few years, this is an experienced team who's motivated. They have their captain back. They lost in 6 last year in a really bad way. They got motivation. They got guys like Brent Burns, Brock Nelson, never won a cup before. They want to win it for him. Their defense is really good now. They have a much better defense. Brett Kulak is a great addition back there. I think the Avs are going to win the Stanley Cup. And part of the reason I think that is because 26 is my lucky number. And it is 2026. And so I feel like maybe there's some fate there. Total number of goals scored. I'll say it'll go 6 games, just like it did in 2022. How many goals a game? Like 7 goals a game? 42. I feel like I go 42 every year. I feel like I do the same math. Fuck it. I'll go 42 for Josh Manson. He's also been a monster this year. So, anyways, if you guys think I'm an idiot, prove yourself right by joining the bracket challenge down in my link below. It's free to enter. We got nothing going on, but if you win, you might get a prize. Probably will. Last time that we played, I won. So my prize was self-satisfaction. But yeah, like a few years ago, Buddy won and he got some Avs Stanley Cup merch, and then another person that I didn't know won, but he got a Fanatics gift card, right? It's a fun time. Check it out. Link in my description below. I'll see if I do some more content for the playoffs. We will see how it goes. I get a little bit stressed out about it, but I do have a surprise coming for the playoffs. So maybe I'll do a little bit of a video for that. So we will see. Thank you very much to my friend Mr. Seth for editing this video. His link will be down in the description below, as well as the bracket challenge. And so will the link to my YouTube channel where I got my Avs hype video for the playoffs coming out this year. I've been working hard on it. So go check those out. Join the bracket challenge. Check Seth out. Check my video out. Check everything out. Hopefully the Avs don't let me down. Hopefully they make me look smart and not stupid. And they beat those damn LA Kings and then whoever else comes next. Back to Mission 16W Part 2. Last time they did that, they beat the Kings. So hopefully history repeats itself. But nobody's spleen gets taken out this time. That would be great. Unless it's mine. If I have to get my spleen taken out, then so be it. I'll do that for the Avs to win. But anyways, go Avs. Have some fun playoffs.